everyone, welcome to Love Life with Jossy YouTube channel. Today is very special because it's not the regular edition. I'm doing today's episode with my husband because we are commemorating our wedding day. It's our 5th anniversary. So by way of introduction, my name is Josephine Chukwuemeke and
I'm Kingsley Chukwuemeke.
Tell them not me. Alright, so we're doing this video for a couple of reasons. You want to share more about that?
Yes, it's 5 years, and like they've said, no be beans. 5 years of a lot of things. 5 years. First, we are grateful to God. It's not been easy. It's not been a ride in the park or a walk in the park. It has actually been God holding our hands and leading us on day by day. And so we feel, looking back, we feel that there are lots of people who we can actually share our story with to encourage them. You are not alone on this journey. Where you are actually planning to be or where you pray to be someday is actually somebody's prayer at the moment. So just listen to us, and then we know that you'll be able to pick one or two things.
Okay, thank you very much. So like he said, we are sharing with those who are about to embark on the journey of marriage, singles, and those who are already married. You may want to glean one or two lessons from our journey. So how we met or how it all started. You want to go first?
I think you should go first.
Okay, so it actually started in 2017 officially, but I think he was doing some test running in 2016. So 2016 I actually had finished NYC. I was just trying my hands on some stuff, like trying to learn some skills before starting my master's, while I was waiting for my master's admission. And so he calls me to say, oh, I have a book I wrote, I want it to be an audio book, can you help me with the manuscript to edit? And I go like, okay, why do I have to edit your manuscript and do your audio book for you? Oh, he says, oh, you have to go to Abuja to do it, there's a studio I've planned and whatever. So I went like, okay, fine. I know I love speaking, the media thing, but I don't have experience. Why would he call me out of the blues? Okay, yes, well, someone I knew, like from uni days. We used to be in the same fellowship. So the first time I met him was, I think it was the church service. Yes, fellowship service. Maybe my first or my second. That they just casually, it was like during the week. I was a fresher, I walked in, and then it was time for announcements. And one brother came and said, okay, announcement, general secretary. And that's all I knew. And interestingly, I got to know him after then to say, okay, he's from Delta State. And in less than 1 year from them, he became the president. So, president, everybody must be, in good terms with the president. We're a small fellowship in terms of numbers. That's Fountain of Life Community, CSF, FUTA. So, well, he's a fine guy, so I knew he was a fine guy, but I wasn't like so much into him not because he was president and everybody came around, or because I didn't just used to like any guy that had most ladies' attention. And that's what I saw, and so I'm like, okay, so why? I beg. I was in my own lane. But I got to know that, we're from the same state. So once in a while, he tried to speak language to me when we see. And would I say, fortunately for me, I got into leadership before the end of my year 1. So we had to work closer, but there was nothing, well, you have to believe this, there was nothing beyond the brother-sister stuff in uni. I think he had some special relationships in the university he might not want to go into, and I probably did. Well, I actually did, not probably. But on that aside, so he calls me 2016 to say, sister, I want to do work. I said, okay, fine. I have to do this work for you. I have to come to Abuja. You have to pay my tea fare. You have to pay this and that. And he was ready. I didn't mind. I was less busy. I felt, oh, go to Abuja. It's holiday. Leave Ibadan. It's boring. So I went to Abuja. I did the job. Came back. All of a sudden, I started hearing stories. The guy never produced that book, right? He did.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, so it was supposed to be an audio book. I sat, I read, It was uncomfortable for me because the studio guy was still upcoming. Somehow, but he didn't publish an audio book.
No, he didn't.
No, there was never an audio book. So after audio book fell through, he called me to say, I think that was January the following year, to say, let's do written book. Oh. I said, okay. He said, do you have printers in Ibadan? I said, why must you print in Ibadan? I mean, you're in Delta. Why must I help you with printer? He said, he has approached a printer. That one is too expensive. Since daddy has some books. I said, okay, fine. I said I was going to help him and all of that. And in the midst of all of those, I knew it was my season to get married 2017, 2018. Father, I prayed December 2016 that I didn't want to get married. I wanted to get married before the end of 2017. And then I was not engaged. Yes, I had some people, green light here and there, but there was nothing. I didn't have a maybe dating relationship as we know it now. I was wondering, okay, how will it happen within 1 year? I had this marriage and relationship ministry. I knew that it was time to plunge into it, so I had to get married. Based on my journey, which I may not want to go into today, but I knew it was time. So I started praying. March came, April came. I got my admission February or so for my master's, and no guy in view. March came, nothing. So I had to I think there was a particular weekend in that March 2017. I had to call one of my mentors. I was just ranting. I imagine I want to get married this year. Nobody has come. It's like I should start looking at 2018. Well, while that is not wrong, I think I need to say this to singles. Please don't give yourself an ultimatum to get married. Yeah. Because you start putting yourself under undue pressure, right? Yeah, so please don't say, oh, I have to marry before 2017. No, except God has said he's bringing the person, and this is the year, this is the month, and you can just hold on to him in prayer so that he will do more revelations, as you move on. So I did that, but I just knew, but I didn't know how it was going to play out. Okay, so around that March, April, somebody came around who was not the one, and that day I just called my mentor and ranted that Friday in the morning. He said, Josephine, relax. God will do it. We've prayed about it. That same day, one of God sends me a text to say, are you in a relationship or something? I'm like, hello, why are you asking that kind of question? I had to reply and say, did you send this message to me, like Josephine? Was it a mistake? I said, no, it was not a mistake. So I told him I'm not in a relationship. In the morning. In the evening, he called me to say, I want to marry you. I want you to think about it and give me a response. I was shocked because, that morning I was complaining there was nobody. That same morning you're asking me if I'm in a relationship. That same evening I said I should marry you over the phone. Who does that? Who? You do, really? Yeah, but who proposes to a lady over the phone? Should we take that serious? And well, somehow I felt, why is this guy? What's going on here? This is not like this is not my spec, but we can't be talking marriage. It wasn't looking anything like it. So I just ignored the matter because I was at a friend's wedding, so I wasn't even thinking of anything, serious aside being in the bridal shower, enjoying myself. But the thing just was in my mind, and I think I called my mentor, that same person, from the morning to say, see, somebody's telling me marriage over the phone. Now, I was just ranting. And he says, calm down. It's like men don't have it as easy. Like to propose to a woman is hard. But to argue football or any other thing is easy for them. Okay, so I forgave that. And he asked me to ask him if he has gone to see the marriage committee. And I sent him a text that night. Brother, you know how it is done because we're in the same church. Have you seen the marriage committee? Brother said yes. That was when I knew he was serious. You want to talk? I think I've tried.
Well. Mine is a lot. The ton of, my own story plenty. Let me be very, very short. Let me be brief as possible. First, I left school. She rightly said we knew ourselves, but nothing happened. Precisely, I was more interested in a northern person. I wanted, so I didn't even look at my immediate environment. I didn't have that flair. I just loved northern women. So I wouldn't have minded if I had a relationship with them. In time past, I had some of them in my circle of friends, but nothing more. And so when I left school, I started working. I was retained at first, and then while I was in service, I got to know this person primarily because she was northerner. She was a northerner, and then she struck a chord with me, and somehow, I knew within me that I was not marrying her out of my own volition if it was not something I was convinced about. However, I was okay having her around me, and so I came out clear and I told her, I said, look, as far as I'm concerned, relationship wise, if we'll go further, I must get directive clear from God. I don't know if you have gotten, but I believe that if I get, nothing is going to stop us. And so we were okay with it. At some time, we began to, have, the feeling began to grow and grow and grow and grow. And I remember I told myself one day we're in Lagos at an event. And after the event, I told myself, I've been with this person and God, you are not saying anything. It's as if, you're just watching us, nurse the feelings and all. At least I've been very open to you. You know my heart. I don't want to miss it. However, I don't think waiting this long would would actually go well. And so I just decided in my mind, and I said by the time I get back to Abuja, I was going to propose to her. I had gone to see her family, just friends per se. They knew me, her siblings knew me as well. And that same day, I want to say because this is very, very important, I had that commitment first to God, and then I knew He showed me mercy. Because not everybody would have actually gone that same path, having to go through that kind of adventure or venture into such kind of relationship, and then you don't come out with your hands burnt. I went into it. Yes, I was innocent, and as much as it is, I knew it took a lot of investment from me and from her as well. But at that point, I know how God speaks to me, and He spoke to me. He spoke to me. I would not want to go go through the details of that dream, but I had that dream that same day 3 times, and I still have the record of it. And it was shocking to me, and I was like, God, why did you allow me, stay this long
in this wrong
relationship? Because it was very, very clear, and if I had gone otherwise, I would not have anybody to blame. So I had to, it came very fast, as if God knew what was happening. That same year, in December that year, that thing happened in August, and I told myself I was going to take my hands off anything in relationship, and I was going to allow Him choose for me. Some of my friends who, out of their curious nature, and some of them had seen me around her, they were like, no, this is not happening to you and all that. I couldn't tell them exactly what my experiences were, but I was very sure. I was very sure that God was not in support of it. And so she mentioned something about mentors. I'll tell you one thing. There was a time I made a visit to my mentor, and he asked me, guy, how far? What's happening? And then he just said, don't you have a picture or anything? And I remember that day in his sitting room, he said, let me see the picture. I said, wow, she's such a beautiful person. And he asked one question, is she born again? Actually, I couldn't say. I know she was a Christian, but being born again was something that was not to be compromised. And he asked me, and I told him no. Clearly, I told him no. And I was surprised. He didn't say anything like, okay, let's see how it goes. He didn't ask me how I felt. He just told me, this can never be your wife. Now that was very, very harsh, but that was the truth. I didn't tell him of my experience, earlier, but I knew that this was God speaking, and if I had done otherwise, I'll have myself to blame. So fast forward, um, the whole thing came, I had a job, I had an accommodation, and so I was ready because I had, considered it just before then because I had changed jobs in, that's around that time. Now, how did I come to meet Jossy? I don't still know how it happened. I don't, and that's the truth. I really don't know how it happened. But I just knew I had told God recently and I had taken my hands off. In fact, some of my friends got me connected to some ladies. And I was just laughing. I told them, I don't know these people from Adam. And I know you are caring, but you cannot be caring, you cannot care for me so much as God would. And that was one thing I ran with. I met her, okay, the only picture I had about her was in school. Now, let me also say that she was not in my center of attraction. No.
Right.
Because Jossy cannot walk for a kilometer without having many people talk to her. I didn't like it.
Is it my fault?
Well,
why did you like it?
It's not anybody's fault. Okay, now I know better, God had actually put her like that. God had actually built her like that. And so I wasn't, it was not any form of, I was not going to be attracted. And then, of course, I had my own beef with where she came from. God, something happened. Well, like
I want to from the same state.
Not about states now. I had, somehow I think I had
no coding, states.
Are you sure you want me to say this thing?
Talk now.
I had an encounter with her parents, and being a pastor's daughter, no be being. I didn't want to go there.
He did not want to marry a pastor's daughter.
I consciously did not want to go there. I made sure I didn't play around there.
Because he's running away from what? Ministry. That's the underlying.
Okay. Well, okay. And I just knew that somehow she was not, the kind of lady I was attracted to.
But now.
But
now.
This was how it happened.
But now.
Like they say, the rest is history.
No.
But actually, I must say that one of the things I observed while I was
us how
out
you
there,
came about proposing.
Well, it was quite a difficult one because number one, it was not like God said, go and marry Jossy. No.
So what happened?
Mine was a little bit of drama because while I was out in the field, I was far away in Niger State on an official assignment. And I remember each time I had to pray, it was more like, God, I've just told you, I am not going to do it my way, you will do it your way. And, well, it looks funny, but that's just my experience. I remember trying to buy something, you're driving, and then you want to make payments, across the passenger seat to the person standing on the other side. And while you're making payment, Jossy is sitting by your side physically and saying, give me the money, I'll give to the person. And that happened. No, it was like, I was like,
open bishop.
Well,
trance.
I was not praying, so sometimes trance. Well, but that was my own experience, okay? And that happened more than 3 times. And I remember telling God that if I thought this is play, you should stop it. Because this was not where my attraction was. I was expecting God to build around my point of attraction. But guess what? This was what happened. At the point I told God I am ready to actually go his way. In a space of 3 weeks consecutively, God began to feed my mind on the good things that this lady possesses that I never saw.
Sorry, 1 second. So about the attraction thing, I know I talked about attraction, that I didn't like that people were all around him, and he has been saying, oh, attraction. I think we should not get it wrong because some people actually are attracted to each other, and then God is involved and then they get married. So it doesn't have to be that, oh, I was not attracted, we're enemies, now fought, or doing the will of God, you have to not be attracted. Oh no, it happens differently for different people.
Yes,
and just keep that in.
Yes, that's true. So I remember telling God that, look, this is not what I planned out for, and this is not what I'm prepared for. But as at the time, I consciously told myself that, look, the longer you hold on, the difficult your journey becomes. And so I had to submit. In 3 weeks, I could remember back to back on a daily basis, as her thought came to my mind, it was something that was pleasurable, it was something that was of deep thought, it was something that I enjoyed thinking about. And that kind of, removed whatever bias I had, whether it was based on family, whether it was based on her personality, and I began to love her. And I began to love her. Now, having to propose, because something you never envisaged, you actually would not have to, you have to, put up with a little bit of struggle, and that was how it was. But each day it looked like I was running on extra. You have finished your gas, and you are now on extra. And if this extra finishes, where will you get another one? That was how it was for me. And it was as if somebody who was pressured, you have to say this, it is the right time, don't miss it. I didn't know what was happening, with her. And the only best way I could do was just send the text. Mind you, I must say that the things that she mentioned earlier, having to do a job for me, was nothing connected to me looking for her or wanting to be interested in her at that point. I just knew that this person can deliver, what I wanted. And as far as it went, there was nothing I was expecting out of it. But today, I want to really say that I'm grateful for, getting married to her. I'm not taking it for granted. She has been the best partner I could ever dream of. And I think it's very, very important to know that God is the best person to know what you exactly need.
Right.
You really think you know what you need for a journey? Take for instance, you want to travel and you necessarily don't know what the terrain looks like. Even if you know, you didn't know what it looked like in the last 4 hours before you began that journey. And so only God can prepare you for what is ahead.
Right.
And only if you partner with him actively, then you are set for a good sail. I'm not saying challenges will not come. Of course, we've had our ups and downs, but I'm really grateful to God that I'm doing life with her.
Thank you. I'm grateful.
5 years, no beans. Thank God all the same.
If I was celebrating 30, don't make a big deal of 5 and 5.
I can make noise of this 5. Alright, so let's talk about what these 5 years have availed us. What have we learned?
Okay, you go first.
Alright, so I'll say first, we've learned to accept each other's differences. At first, it was, a difficult pill to know that somebody who you're going to live with has a lot of, views, has a lot of, customs and traditions that had, influenced her from childhood, from her parents and, from the society where she had spent most of her life. And so it's not easy to see that it's different from what it is. It, brought a little, friction at some point, but with patience and with that deliberate effort to understanding that this person has, joined you in the journey of life, not from childhood per se. Even children from the same home have differences. So how much more someone who is coming from an entire different background than you do. So one of the things we've really learned is to accept each other. There are a lot of things from views to choices to,
temperament.
Sorry?
Temperament.
Oh my God. Let's not talk about that one. But then, everything, like they say, variety is the spice of life. If you don't see it from the brighter side and from the God side, you probably will think that God has actually run you scam. But I tell you, everything works together for good. So yeah.
Okay, so talking about differences too, I think it's safe to say that people are different. I mean, men and women are different basically, and then everybody is influenced by their family, their environment, their faith. So you're born again. How mature are you? That determines how you actually behave, your character. It's important that we understand that in marriage people are going to be different. However, uh, there are aspects that we need to be similar in quotes, and that is when you talk about core values, when you talk about devotion to God. If both of you have divergent views about core values, about your commitment, your faith, it's going to rock your boat. It's going to cause a lot of friction. It may even bring about division, like this dissolution of the marriage itself. So it's safe. It's important that we understand that in the marriage people can be different, but we disagree to agree or agree to disagree, and then like the Bible says in Amos chapter 3, there's three that um can two work together except they agree. So the truth is that we're still going to be learning more and more about accepting each other, because change is constant and in different situations. Okay, I think the key to this is just to make compromise. All right. If it's not a life and death issue, let him, win, or let her win and stuff like that. When it comes to accepting our different preferences and all of that.
In the end, you
Yeah,
both win.
yeah, you both win really. I think another thing we should talk about is depending on God. To be honest,
Yeah,
if not for the God factor in this relationship, I think there have been times where I'm like, why did I even marry this guy?
I'm telling you.
Are you in my mind?
And
I'll be used to
as
face
in,
it.
Haba, that's real. That's real.
It
As
just,
in, oh my God.
I think there was a day we were going back to the altar after we came to visit, and I don't know what happened that morning. That I removed my ring and I gave you.
Yes.
So I actually removed my ring. And I gave you. I said, "Take." He was looking at me like, "What's this country?" It's like, I'm tired, and thank God for the kind of person that he is.
And I didn't even come to think of it. I didn't even think that you actually act that way. But
I didn't even think I was going. I mean, that was a stupid thing to do, but I didn't know what pushed me to
as
do
in, I'm going back,
it.
having
But
suffered hours of. Oh my God, who does that? Many people
me,
do.
not me, the
Many
flesh.
people
Okay, but really, I just believe that if not for God, to be sincere, if not for God, I probably would have walked away. He probably would have beaten me up or walked away. I mean, people have 3 months of marriages and they are over 2 months, 6 months, 1 year. But when we look back, I believe is we. When I look back, when he looks back as okay, I made this commitment to God first. I'm committed to God first, and then to this person. We actually lean on the strength of God. This moment when I've offended him, I'm sure, or he has offended me, and then the Holy Spirit says, just let it go. And that is just handling each other. In other aspects of the relationship, all right, there's a need. We need to do something. We don't have the money. Want to make a decision. We have actually gained a lot from depending on God, allowing God to be the third man, primarily in the relationship. Want to talk about the next point?
Okay.
Fight for resolve conflicts.
Yeah, we've also learned to fight fair um, in resolving conflict. You know that definitely in every genuine relationship, there will be times where you either step on someone, and sometimes it's not intentional. Now, one of the things God has helped me understand over these years is that when she complains or when she tells me about something she's dissatisfied with, I shouldn't now like run her down. And sometimes it can be that two people are offended, you know, because you necessarily don't know where the other person's thought lies. And so it is very important that as in making sure that your relationship stands, or in making sure that our relationship stand, we learn to understand that this person has a right, to say what is unpleasing to him, what he or she is dissatisfied with. Yeah, what's your dissatisfied with, and learn to be honestly sorry for it. Apologize. There are a lot of things that even, and surprisingly, there are times where you even have to apologize, even when you know that
You're not
this
wrong.
is not your fault, just for peace to reign, just for things to get back, in motion. You have to actually step down. And for a man, it can be very, very difficult when you know that I have every right, to actually press down or demand that this is done this way. And things in your presence, don't really go that way, the way you want it. That's actually where you have to, submit totally to the Holy Spirit, because if you're not yielded to Him, it will be a difficult ride for you to actually maintain your ego, because that can take you far.
Okay, another thing we want to talk about is serving each other and making sacrifices. So in First Corinthians chapter 7, the Message version, where Apostle Paul was talking about getting married, being married, or staying single. There's a verse, I think verse 6 or 7 in that First Corinthians, talks about marriage. Marriage is not a place to stand up for your rights.
Yeah.
Okay, and to be honest, is one thing we're still learning. Okay, to serve each other, because a selfish person will not do well in marriage. If I'm selfish, we will not make a headway in decisions. Okay, oh, are we having another child? I'm not having another child. Can you travel for this program, or you stay back? Basic things. You don't want the fan on, you want the freezer off, and stuff like that. So making sacrifices. A lot of times I've had to do things, or ministry demands, or in the home, and my husband has to step back, has to let go of something he would have wanted to do, or have to part with money, or have to spend time doing something, covering up, so that the home will run smoothly while I'm away, and vice versa. So in marriage, we are learning, and we have learned that it's a place to serve each other. There's not an issue of, oh, you are the man, you must do this, it's your money, it's my money. No. Or your money is to be spent, my money is to be saved, and all of that. Oh, it's your role to wash the plates, it's your role to bathe the children, and all of that. We make excuses for each other, serve the other person, and then make a sacrifice. Okay, we've had our share of dealing with distance, from courtship to the earliest of our marriage, having to allow for the distance, this period, because this person has to work, the other person has to school, and all of that. And it's rewarding. The results are rewarding at the end of the day. What is
Also picked our lessons from them.
Yes, of course, we picked our lessons. Yeah, from
in the best, in the ideal case.
Yeah.
It's not advisable for couples to be away.
Yeah, live apart. Yeah.
To live apart, however you want to think about it. It might be an agreement. It might be a mutual thing between them. But especially when, for the sake of each other, it is highly expedient for couples not to stay away from each other. I can't remember, having some of the struggles we had, had to do with communication, as little as communication is.
Very important, actually.
Yeah, as little as it is, it looks insignificant, but having to understand that this person is not there. There are things you
like
don't
phone
need
communication,
to say.
very
You just
face
begin
to face. Yeah.
You get irritated easily. You hardly understand yourself, and I don't think doing distance, anybody can understand sign language. But if you are where you're in the presence of your partner, just there are some things that doesn't need any vocal efforts.
Yeah, to communicate.
A symbol, a sign, or something.
A touch.
A touch can actually tell you this is what this person is trying to communicate.
Yeah.
But in distance relationship, you can never get that, and it's a lot. It rocked us. But as God has helped us, we've been able to roll with the punches and then learn from our own issues. Because sometimes it's important that maybe partners go away for a while, due to one or two things, but if it's agreed, if it's understood,
there should be a plan to come together.
There should always be a plan to come together as soon as possible.
Yeah. And so finally, lessons that we've learned, mutual respect and managing each other's expectations. So the truth is that people go into marriage with their expectations that, oh, this is what I expect him to do, this is what I expect her to do. But sometimes we don't even think of, okay, if I expect this and that from her, what am I bringing to the table, or what will I be doing?
What's my
You know,
part?
yeah, what my part to play. And mutual respect, yes. Every wife should respect her husband and submit to her husband. And of course, the respect also, your husband will respect you. He will not submit to you, but he will respect you also, as you respect him. So mutual respect for each other's feelings and expectations. So if, and we actually are still learning that, okay, I mean, it's a journey. And if he expects that you do this, and I expect that as my wife, this is what you do, this is how you behave, this is how you handle the children. Sometimes it may just be in his head based on what he has seen, or the ideal of what he thinks a wife and a mother should be. And he may not communicate it, okay? That's not, he doesn't communicate, he just think that you should know. And I think that communicating expectations goes a long way in helping couples. Communicate your expectations, because sometimes they are not realistic, or they don't also, will I say, come across your partner's mind, because they don't have the same experiences and maybe thought process as you. So if you expect her to do this, or expect him to do, and he's not doing, and you keep talking and talking, another thing you might want to do is, so start doing what you expect him to do or her to do. So my husband feels like, okay, I expect you to sweep the house every morning, and I'm like, I can't sweep the house every morning, no. Should be just two of us. I'll sweep maybe in the afternoon or in the evening. I'll sweep 3 times a week. I cannot sweep every day. And he feels, I want my house to be swept every day. By the time he talks and maybe I'm not responding as fast, you can choose to, okay, the day should not sweep, I will sweep it because it's also my house, instead of nagging and making a case out of it. Want something?
No,
On expectations?
That's communicating your expectations, whether it's in your mind or off your mind, is very important. It's basic, to avoid conflicts, because what you cannot assume, what you cannot assume what you want another person to do without communicating to them. So it's very important that as you try to, as much as you have expectations of this person, there are some things, there are some kind of expectations that you have that ordinarily your wife shouldn't do. And if you don't talk about it, you wouldn't know to what extent these expectations can be met or not met. Okay? But whichever way, there is need for understanding, and then knowing the capacity of your spouse, so that sometimes you don't push them too hard, and you don't get them to do things just because it pleases you, because then it becomes selfish, it becomes bossy, when it's actually supposed to be a mutual relationship.
Yeah. So I think we just shared a bit of some lessons we've learned. There's so many other things we have learned, and we are still learning, because we're a work in progress. And we hope you've picked up some wisdom from this. If you want to ask us questions or want to drop a comment, you can feel free. And if you loved this video, please like, subscribe, and share with your network. We need your prayers. I mean, we're growing, and we're trusting God that next 5 years more glorious. The next 1 year, I mean, 5 years, next 1 year will be better, if Jesus tarries. In Jesus' name, thank you very much.
Thank you for hanging out with us. We cannot wait to see you again.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye.